they separated us and they fought with David until he had nothing left in him. He couldn't fight anymore. And then he just shot him.
Today, we are pulling back the curtain on South Africa's unspoken war, the story they don't want you to hear. We are going to tell you a story that the international media glosses over, that the government desperately wants to bury under statistics and political spin, and that reveals a chilling reality of systemic collapse. This is a story about a nation in crisis, about leadership that has failed its people, and about a silent war being waged in the very heart of South African communities. We are going to start with one woman's tragedy, a tragedy that is not an isolated incident, but a symptom of a deadly epidemic, and we are going to expose how, in the midst of this chaos, the state is not coming to save its citizens, it is actively moving to disarm them. Our story begins on a farm called Buffelshoek near Fochville in Gauteng province. The date was February 20th, 2012. As dawn broke, Bernadette Hall and her husband David were milking their cows, beginning another day of the work that was in their blood. What happened next would shatter a life and expose a terrifying truth about justice in modern South Africa. 5 armed men approached. They overpowered the couple. Bernadette was tied up and assaulted. David Hall was forced to his knees on the lawn outside his own dairy, and in front of his bound wife, he was executed. 2 shots were fired into his brain. But David Hall's murder is only the beginning of this horror story. The real crime, the one that screams of a broken system, happened after the gunshots faded. This is where the facade of a functioning state crumbles. Critical forensic evidence, a jacket, cigarette butts, the very cables used to bind Bernadette, was left at the scene. The police did not collect it. They only did so later when outraged farmers in the community confronted them. The vehicle the attackers fled in was found. No fingerprints were taken. At trial, the only evidence was Bernadette Hall's own eyewitness testimony. She looked her husband's killers in the eye and identified them. "I was there. I saw how they murdered my husband. I know who they are," she said. And what was the result? The state, the very entity meant to deliver justice for David Hall, could not prove its case. The evidence had been so badly mishandled that it was useless. The 2 assailants were acquitted. Because of the legal principle of double jeopardy, they can never be charged for this murder again, even if new evidence emerges. They walk free. Bernadette Hall testified that she was treated like a criminal in that courtroom, attacked and humiliated by the defendant's lawyers. Her rights as a victim never explained to her. She still lives on that farm, a testament to unimaginable courage, telling the South African Human Rights Commission, "I would rather stay on the farm and be killed than stay in town. I will not survive it." Now, listen carefully. The government wants you to believe this is an old, isolated case. Police Minister Senzo Machunu stands at a podium and tells you that the narrative of farm attacks is distorted. He presents cold statistics, 6 attacks on rural communities. He breaks down the racial identities of the victims. 2 African farm owners, African employees, 1 white farm dweller. As if this arithmetic of death somehow negates the terror, as if it debunks a so-called genocide narrative he claims is being pushed from abroad. He says the police are making notable progress. This is a masterclass in misdirection. They are using numbers to sanitize savagery and to divide South Africans. The question is not primarily about the race of every victim. The question is about the state's fundamental duty to protect all its citizens and to deliver justice equally. Bernadette Hall's story is not about a statistic, it is a forensic audit of failure. It shows a police service so incompetent it cannot collect basic evidence, a prosecution authority so feeble it cannot win a case with an eyewitness, and a justice system that re-victimizes the bereaved. This is not progress. This is institutional paralysis. And into this vacuum of safety and justice, the government has now introduced its most audacious, most dangerous idea yet, the Firearms Control Amendment Bill of 2025. Understand this clearly, this proposed law is a direct assault on your right to life. Its core provision is the complete removal of self-defense as a valid reason to own a firearm. You heard that right. In a country where, by the government's own admission, murders are still catastrophically high and firearms are the most common weapon used, the state's solution is to tell you that you may no longer legally acquire the means to defend your own life in your own home. Think back to Bernadette and David Hall on their isolated farm. The police were not there to stop those 5 men. Under this new law, the state is saying that people like them do not have a legitimate reason to possess a tool for self-preservation. It demands you prove exceptional circumstances to earn the privilege of possibly protecting your family. What is more exceptional than living on a remote farm or in a township with slow police response times? What is more exceptional than the state's documented failure to keep you safe? This firearm bill exists in the shadow of another deeply divisive policy, land expropriation without compensation, enabled by the 2024 Expropriation Act. The government frames this as justice, as correcting the original sin of colonial dispossession. There are over 5,400 outstanding old land claims stuck in a backlog. The state owns 2.5 million hectares of land sitting idle in a holding account. Land that could be productively farmed, yet the focus is on seizing private property. The process is plagued by allegations that well-connected elites, not the truly landless, are benefiting. Researcher Nkanyiso Gumede points to a shortage of political will and policies that favor commercial-scale farming at the cost of the poor. This chaotic, often lawless environment creates a tinderbox of tension and fear on the very farms where people like Bernadette Hall live and work. This is the grand, tragic failure. It is a failure that connects the corruption of state capture that hollowed out our electricity supply, to the classrooms where our children are failed, to the hospitals that cannot cope. It is a system that has left millions of South Africans in poverty, waiting for a promise of land and dignity that never materializes, while simultaneously telling minorities facing violence that their trauma is a political fiction. It pits the desperate against the terrified, while those in power enrich themselves and pass laws to make everyone less safe. Bernadette Hall's story is a microcosm of it all. Violent crime met with institutional indifference, followed by a political narrative that denies her reality, culminating in legislation that would strip her of her last line of defense. This is the hidden truth. The collapse is not coming, it is here. It is in the lost docket, the acquitted killer, the idle state land, the stolen police gun, and the new clause in a law that tells you you have no right to fight back. This is why we must make our voices heard. This is not just about firearms, it is about the fundamental covenant between a state and its people. If they will not protect us, they have no moral authority to disarm us. If this story has angered you, if it has shocked you, then you cannot be a passive spectator. The government is counting on your silence. Subscribe to this channel. We are dedicated to uncovering these truths, to going where the mainstream media will not. Every subscriber gives these stories a louder voice. Like this video. It tells the algorithm that this is important, that South Africans demand accountability. Share it on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on X.com. Send it to your family, your friends, your colleagues. Break the silence that the powerful rely on. Comment below. Tell us your stories. Have you been failed by the police? Are you afraid? Your experience is evidence. And if you are able, consider supporting our work directly through channel membership or a super thanks donation. We are not funded by any political party or corporate interest. Your support allows us to investigate deeper and to keep the spotlight firmly on the corrupt and the incompetent. It allows us to give a platform to the Bernadette Halls of this country whose voices are too often ignored. We will not accept being rendered defenseless. We will speak, we will share, and we will fight for a South Africa that works for all its people. The truth is the first weapon. Use it.